Okay, so we're at the last batch. We'll start with Robert here. Um, okay, so this one to me feels like you're missing some poses. It feels slow overall. I think that let's watch the animation of it. And so if we watch this, yeah, it's just a particularly slow walk. Um, and yours, my walk that I did as an example was 24 frames. Yours is 48, so it's almost twice as slow. Um, the other thing I would notice is it doesn't feel like all the poses are in there. So you get a contact, and it's not bad, with the exception of like you'll want to a little bit more, push these feet a little bit more together, like this. Right, so it feels like it's a little bit more in line with a walk cycle, right? You also want to do a little bit more favoring on this. And your upper body feels like it's favoring it enough. So that's not a bad pose for a walk cycle. You maybe want to tuck this arm in just a little bit more. But something like that's pretty good. This is a pretty good contact pose. But then we don't really have a down pose. It just kind of drifts right past that into your next contact. Maybe the up pose. I guess you kind of have somewhere between the passing and the up pose. You have this pose here, and so I guess this is sort of the passing pose, and so it could be a little better here. We gotta shift the weight over the leg. Tuck this leg in just a little bit. So let's say this is your passing pose. So we got our contact and we got a passing, and then we got another contact, another passing, and another contact. The problem with it is you don't have a down pose. You don't have the pose where the body absorbs the weight and the feet flatten out and all that interestingness. You don't have the down pose, right? And you don't have the up pose, which is, although you're kind of getting some of that for free, you're not getting quite everything. So your up pose would be a little bit more like something like this, right? And so if we watch that, even with those little bit of changes we made there, you're getting a little bit more of the poses now. Also, your arms are doing something weird right there. It kind of rotates out and he does a big side step. So make sure you're looking at this from all different angles. But there's quite a few little things here that I think are just missing. And I think it would be best probably you're probably going to just be better served to start over with your key poses and make sure you get all of those key poses in and then just repolish the whole thing. And I guess on some level that's kind of starting from scratch, but it's starting from scratch with a plan. So um, okay, I think I gave you quite a bit of feedback in here again. The biggest thing, he's starting to squat as he walks, and so we fix that. The knees are kind of pointing out a little bit. And then also, I think his arms are out a little to the side, and I think there's a little bit of polish you can do on it just to kind of make some stuff. Like you get some tiny hitches here and there, but they're not major. So I'm not going to pop yours open because we looked at that one in class today. Okay, Spencer. So I'm not sure if this is a double bounce walk or not. Let's open them up and see. It kind of feels like it is. I'd say my first gut reaction is the arms feel stiff. Um, so let's just go ahead and watch it in here and see. So I think this may be intentionally a double bounce walk, which is all right. The assignment was to do a vanilla one, but let's look at your curve. Translate Y curve. So you got your down. Okay, so maybe isn't an intentional double bounce walk. Your up is there, and then you got your down there, and your up should be about there. Something like that. For some reason my shortcut keys aren't working. Somewhere like that, right? And then this one wouldn't even be there then. Seriously? Okay, I'll make it happen then. I do not know what's happening with Maya right now, but just try to ignore it. It's just wanting attention. Okay, so let's say that this is really more of what you'd be going for. And so you don't get quite that double bounce thing going on anymore. And so that's actually helping quite a bit. Only other things I would say, that's a pretty big stride, so that may be a little long on that. You could probably shorten that a little bit, but yeah, I would probably shorten it a little bit. So that's gonna screw you up in a few ways. The biggest thing is that if we go in here and grab everything, and look at your translate Y's forward. Okay, right? It's that this point here where the foot, that front foot's going to be locked in place for quite a while, and then it kind of lunges forward to there. Maybe what I would consider doing is grabbing them all, hitting R, and then just scaling them a little bit back this way. So maybe something to that extent. That's maybe too much. So that's feeling a little better. So the other thing to note, your feet are contacting straight forward, so you're going to want to angle that out a little bit. Not as much with the knee, a little bit more with the foot. And so right here, your character is up on one foot, and if we go to the front view, frame that, you'll see kind of where the weight is. So we really need to kind of make sure we're getting that shift in weight from side to side. And so just a little bit of that as the character shifts his weight over and over again, which that's just kind of screwing it up in this one pose, but you get the idea. And there, it needs to be there. And then on this pose here, it needs to be more like that, right? And so it's just kind of shifting his weight over and over again to get the right thing. If we shifted the weight over that way, we can kind of counter it a little bit like this, right? And the last thing is these arms are kind of poking out there just a little far. So I don't know. I would tinker around with the arms as well, just kind of loosen them up. They're feeling a little stiff, like they're kind of locked at the elbow a little bit. So maybe a little bit more dragon overshoot. Dragon Overshoot. That's a good band name there. Don't save. Okay. Stephanie. Let's look at the play blast. Okay. So I have a feeling there's some rig issues on this one. But let's open up here a little bit. The biggest thing I notice, of course this is just from the side, or from the front view, is that the character is... Okay, we'll look at it in Maya then. So the character's steps are a little wide, so like he's got his feet pretty far apart. And so that's usually an extremely masculine thing to do. But I just wouldn't have it that far apart. What I would consider doing instead is when the feet hit, sort of angle them out a little bit. And the angling them out is pretty important. And then bring them in a little bit. And so what you end up with is a... There we go, something like that. Does that make sense? Now the other thing is how to control this knee aim. Is there something in the twist here? I think that's it. Okay, so we need the knees to kind of point in, because that was one of my biggest things I noticed is as he walks. His knees are kind of doing some weird things there. I'm thinking you're getting a little bit of issues with the loop point. Like maybe if we look at the cycle, it's not looping correctly all the way through there. So here's the way, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but here's the way that I always kind of tweak that is I grab the entire character, right? Let's make sure I'm not grabbing bones there. None, show, NURBS curves, there we go. Grab the entire character. Set a keyframe on frame 0. Set a keyframe on frame 23. I'm sorry. I'm going to middle mouse drag frame 0 to frame 23. Set a keyframe there. So basically what we did is we duplicated frame 0, right? But now we get this cycling with an offset, so that means what it's going to do is it's going to pop back to the beginning there. Well, all that we really need to offset is your translate Y on these three controllers. Okay, so if I go in here and find my translate Y on these three, usually I can use where this is flat along there. I want to bring that back up to where that's still flat, right? And then the rest of it should kind of work out. And so that should be the same exact pose except there, right? And so that's one of the first things happening here is we'll see that the character doesn't really move forward. If we go grab the hips, look at the translate Y. You know, see the character doesn't really move forward for that first part. So let's go ahead and move him forward a little bit. Maybe kind of adjusting that a little bit. And if you do have to move the curve on this one, just make sure you move this one simultaneously. So let's go look at frame 0. If you're happy with that, that's cool. If you wanted to scoot it back a little bit, you just slide them both together. Okay, so maybe if you're wanting something like that, then that makes, you know, you can adjust it that way. Now we're going to have to do a little bit of adjusting with your tangents now. I'm sure I screwed up some tangent stuff. Undo. Put that, come on. Undo. Like, seriously? That's so annoying. So Maya's messing up on me, and so that just screwed up that part of the animation, but you get the idea that it would loop accordingly now forever. And so now if we play this, we're getting a little bit of foot sliding there, but you get the idea. We could probably go back and sort of nail that down a little bit more. I think you're getting a little bit of, you know, the feet are you're gonna want to push those in more toward the center, like we talked about. I think that you're getting a really big shoulder lean on this, but it really feels like it's not. It's happening suddenly. It's like pop, shoulder lean, flat, 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 pop, shoulder lean. So you may want to kind of go through there and make that happen a little bit more smoothly. And so this is your up pose. I think your character raises this foot really high before coming down to the contact, and I'm not sure how that happens because it's your up pose. Maybe your up's just a little too high. Maybe a little bit more like that. But on your up pose, this foot should be completely flat on the ground. And if we look at it, yeah, I'm getting a little foot slide, but I think that's for something I did, not for something you did. That's feeling a little too far back there on the push off of that foot. So maybe a little bit more like that. I don't know. I'm messing up the loop poses now, but and then the last thing I would say is sort of the arms. I feel like they kind of got some. So it's like they kind of come back and they kind of lock there in the middle, and then they kind of pop back. I feel that it's like it's coming back. Instead of smoothly going through, it kind of pops back right there. So it's kind of like it holds from frame 17 to 20, and then lunges forward. And I'm guessing if we go in here and look at the upper arm. rotate Y. Yeah, that's what we're getting. So it's just kind of doing a little bit of this cleanup of stuff like this just to make sure that it's kind of doing what we want it to do. So hopefully that gives you enough to work with on that. Let's go look at last one. Victoria. This is looking pretty good, I have to say. So I assume you went through the tutorial video. It still needs some overlapping action, but otherwise it's looking pretty solid. Let's look at your NURBS curves. What in the world is happening? Okay, so you all are seeing this, but Maya is just being haunted. So yeah, I think this is looking good. I think your arc of your hand kind of dips in there a little early. And I think that you could use a little bit more overlapping action as the arm drags forward here. Maybe the elbow still continues to drag back a little bit more. Just to kind of get a little bit more drag in the way it's animated. And I'm doing it on the wrong frame, of course, but so yeah, we're dragging this arm forward. So maybe here, just add a little bit more to it. And that way it kind of feels like it's just dragging it behind it. And then kind of flipping forward. And so you got that. I think I would go through now and see if you can or need to offset any of this to make that work. But overall, it's actually working pretty well. You have your feet are landing a little bit too perfectly straight on. So if you look at them now, they're kind of, so you need to do a little bit more of that. You may have to tuck that knee back in a little bit after you do that, but you get the idea, because the feet just don't land perfectly straight forward like that. But otherwise, this one's looking really good. I'd say go through and polish all your curves a little bit more and make sure you're getting a little bit of overlapping action and everything. But otherwise, this is looking really good. So keep up the good work. I think that's the last one, and I am out of here for spring break. Have a great spring break. Bye.